give me a thumbs up. Got it. Right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending our regular Zoom calls. Tom, as always, thank you for attendance. I know Chris Phillips has joined us from the Evening Echo today, and we may be joined by Keith Baker later, who's our police liaison officer, but I know he's on holiday in Spain. And I'd also like to welcome Ron Martin to the meeting today, and thank you very much for accepting what was quite a late invite. I think we need to be open and honest and transparent about what is going to happen tonight. This meeting is being recorded, and I suspect we will have a considerable amount of viewership when it goes live on Friday. So I suspect the meeting will not be one of our normal cosy side fireside chats that we've had. I think it's fair to say that people are angry and upset at recent events, and I'm going to make sure that everybody on this call gets a say, and I hope that everybody will let everybody make their points before responding or counter-responding. We're holding this meeting against the backdrop of a vote of no confidence in your stewardship. 95% of the people that took part, and it's a significant number, don't believe that they are confident in you taking this club forward. We've had unsavoury events during the game at Solihull, and a demonstration at the home game against EC. The latter wasn't planned by any organisation in this room. We're in our worst league position ever, and there is complete uncertainty about the immediate and long-term future of the club. And they're the events that we want to address today with you. We'll do so in an honest and open and professional manner. And if anybody does get too heated, I'll press a mute button. We do need, for the benefit of everybody involved with Southend United, to be absolutely spot on today. So I'm going to start with a couple of questions, if I may. And these all revolve around the development of Fossetts Farm, which may not be where people think we should be starting, but it's a logical progression. And then I'm going to move around the board and asking supporters club groups to say their piece. And I will say we have had meetings in the last couple of weeks, and we are speaking from one voice. There is no dissent amongst the groups about the direction of where we're going to go. So I hope with that introduction, we all understand the rules. So just a couple of questions on the ground to set the tone is, do we have a date of when we are likely to get planning permission? And what immediate effect does that have on our current situation?
It won't have an immediate effect. When the council resolve the club's plan application, which we anticipate will be this month, it then has a period of referral to the Secretary of State, and also a period of challenge of 6 weeks that have to pass before planning consent will be forthcoming. So I imagine that planning will probably be formalised maybe this side of Christmas, or maybe just into January.
Right, so if I've understood that right, and for clarity, is on that kind of time basis, we would expect that the planning permission to have gone through all of the processes sometime very early in 2022.
Well, that's correct, yeah, and you're right, Kerry, it is processes. Because part of the development is in technically greenbelt, it has to be referred to the Secretary of State. Also, the quantum of development before above 150 units, it has to be referred to the Secretary of State. So I'm not saying that should be a negative, but it has to go through a referral. They do have 21 days to respond, but they can seek an extension without objection. So if they do seek an extension of a couple of 3 weeks or beyond, nothing we can do about it. We just have to wait. And that's it, really. So if it was a swift timeline, I think we might have a formal response and acceptance by Christmas. But I think the more likelihood is that it'll just dip into New Year.
Okay, if we were to say January, when do you think a spade will hit the ground?
June.
June, right.
Yeah, the training ground will start before that. That will start by the end of Q2.
Right, June 2022.
Mm.
Right. So on the back of planning permission and the development of a new ground, what does that mean for the short-term investment into Southend United?
Well, that short-term investment is going on every day of the week, as no doubt Tom can confirm. It has been for 20 years. Nothing fundamental will change as a result of planning consent, but there will be fundamental changes to the football club and its opportunities if it moves to a new modern stadium.
Right. Given the fact that you've put a lot of time and effort into getting a new ground.
No, but not time and effort into everything, Kerry. It happens to be football as well, management, and the club as a whole. It's not just about the ground, but we can't stay at Roots Hall.
Right. I'm specifically talking about the ground and noting the fact that a lot of time and effort has been put into the ground. So we
don't know that. I mean, the time and effort being put into the ground, it's been going on for since the period of Delancey, and they've been long gone.
Well, I'd hope a lot of time and effort has been put into the ground, given the amount.
Well, it has, but you're trying to differentiate between time and effort put into the ground and time and effort elsewhere. Time and effort goes into everything. I mean, I hope that Tom will interject. He and I spent 2 hours with the management team down at the training ground this morning. It's not just about the ground, it's about creating an infrastructure to allow the club to succeed in a new stadium, which it cannot do from Roots Hall. We've got limited income from Roots Hall. It's stifling the ability for the club to progress. And yet, and this is in the context of what you're saying, we're still investing 1.4 million in our squad, which would probably put us to second or third. For all I know, Tom, we might be top above Wrexham, but we're certainly in those top 2 or 3, maybe 4 investors in the National League. It's not all about the stadium; it's about the future of the football club and how it can progress.
Actually, what I was doing, I was in what might be a difficult meeting, was trying to be a little bit positive by acknowledging a lot of time and effort has gone into the ground. I wasn't making any other comment.
Okay.
And I am talking specifically about the ground and its development. Others are going to talk about the other things. So once we've got a ground up and running, is that going to trigger a sale of the club to a new custodian, or is your intention to be chairman of Southend United and, for want of a better term, landlord of the estate that we play on?
No, definitely not landlord.
What of a better term? Go on.
Well, definitely not landlord. With regard to the stadium and the football club, what I would like to do is to create an environment for the football club where it can succeed. If I was, as you're encouraging me to do, to walk out now, that would be, from my perspective, a complete, you might say it's a failure anyway, the fact we're in the National League. But, short memories, we were once in the Championship. We had a sustained position in League One. We've come down. I'd like the club to get back into the upper echelons of the Football League. I think the stadium will give that opportunity for investment, but investment doesn't always convert to success on the pitch. We've seen that. I mean, we were the 4th investor in League One, and we ended up getting relegated when we were the 8th position, I think it was, or 9th. So it's not all about money, it's about getting the right people to run the football club.
Excuse me for being maybe a little bit not understanding your terminology. What do you mean by 8th investor?
What do I mean by?
Yeah, 8th. What do you mean by the term 8th investor?
No, I can't not understand what you're saying.
You just said we were the 8th investor in League
One.
No.
So in terms of wage structure.
Right, so that's wage structure, not investment.
Well, it is investment, isn't it? Because the football club doesn't have it, so it has to have investment to into the wage structure.
I'd say that was a running cost, but let's not fall over on terminology.
Well, no, it's an investment, isn't it?
Well, it's a wage structure. You don't,
Well, it's investment in the hope that it'll help the club to succeed.
I know that would be a salary cost in my book in a business that I'd run, but an investment would be, putting money in to make something better, not to pay the normal running costs. But we will move on. Do you know?
I think that's quite an important point there, Kerry, isn't it? Because if the wage structure fell within the turnover of the club, then in League One, our wage bill would have been about £1 million, but it was 2.8. Right now, our wage bill should be probably 700,000, 800,000. It's 1.4. So that top up, if you like, is an investment into trying to make the club more successful by buying better players, we hope, or at least paying the wage bill of better players. Is that right, Tom?
It's correct, yeah. It's correct, yeah. We are all tracking at almost 1.4 million now on investment, and the group, without the group company's support, that would not be achievable.
Okay, I mean, I would have a different definition, but I don't own a football club. I do other things.
No, but I think as a principle, Kerry, having prepared the business planning draft and the cash flows, just as a matter of fact, we would not be able to spend the sort of money we are spending without group company support. So investment or running costs or whatever way you dress it up, we need that group company support.
Okay, so
but also it's not going to finish. It's not going to finish at 1.4, Tom, is it? Because if we commit to what Phil says he would like today, and which I've agreed to do, and then we go and find one or two other people which we think we're going to need, centre back and probably another striker, then the wage bill could well be topping 1.5. So, you know, it's not going to finish where it is. And I think that's investment in trying to help the club succeed. It's whether that money is spent wisely at times. And I don't think it hasn't been spent wisely. I think we were very pleased with the recruitment, but we are where we are. But sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack you and apologise for preempting you. I'll leave you to carry on.
No, that's okay. I've only got two more questions. I'm going to hand over to Paul. The next question is given the fact that we are talking about triggering a sale to a new custodian, do we know why Stan Collymore was around on Tuesday?
We've got no ambitions, aspirations, objective to trigger anything to anybody other than deliver a better future for Southend. That's all it's about. There's no people talking to me about investing in Southend. And frankly, I'm not encouraging it anyway, even if it was.
Fine. I don't want to put Stan's name in the frame because I'm not speaking.
Well, he introduced, although Tom may have come to us anyway, he introduced Tom, very grateful to Stan. Look, Stan really cares. He would like to see a successful Southend too. So when he sees it in the doldrums, he's worried about his future as we are, and he'd like to make, probably like to encourage us to make changes. But we're happy to listen to him because he's an experienced guy. He came to the match to see it with his own eyes, which I think was a good thing. And that's it. That's just he does text me from time to time, like one or two emails, stays in touch with Tom like anybody else. But because he's a high profile, it creates a lot of interest when he turns up on the doorstep. Okay,
so just to summarise, because I don't want to take up the whole meeting with my voice, others rightly want to say their piece. So am I right in taking what you've just said as that that you don't have any plans to hand over the club at any time in the future, both before and after the development of Fossetts Farm?
I don't have any concrete plans, but there will come a time when we have, created the opportunity for, and maybe this is your terminology for investment, when created the opportunity for somebody to invest in the club, and they won't be putting money down the drain. They'll put it into a club that's got prospects. At the moment, I should imagine anyone would come forward and want to be invested in Southend United. Why is it at Roots Hall? I mean, it costs, I think Tom's figures, 400,000 just to keep it afloat in repairs per year. That's a huge amount of money to get a safety certificate from the council. It's a waste at Roots Hall. It won't be a waste if people put money into as an investment to help the club succeed in a new stadium.
Okay, and just finally,
if we get it, we haven't got planning consent yet. We have got to build it. Talking about tens and tens and tens of millions to do this. It's not a simple exercise.
I wouldn't imagine for a minute it is, to be fair. And just finally, I mentioned at the beginning, there's a vote of no confidence that's been published. I just wonder what the view you have is that 95% of the people that have taken part, which were more than we expected, don't have a confidence in your stewardship going forward.
Well, I think that's predicated on our league position. So I think what they're saying is, well, I don't know what they're saying. I don't have a view on that. I mean, I'm not going to vote, am I? So it's up to everybody else to exercise their right. And I understand why people are fed up. We're all fed up, to be honest with you. I'd love the club to be winning. I don't suppose there'd be any vote of any sort if we were top of the league.
Thank you for that. I'm going to hand over now to others. You'll be pleased to hear. I'm going to pass over to Paul. So Paul, over to you, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. I don't think my questions will surprise you, Ron, but if I could just say that the Zoom calls have mixed support. A lot of people think they're very good, some people don't. But one thing we haven't really tracked is the actions. We as a trust went back through the last calls and have logged every action that was promised. And I think it'd be fair to say several haven't been addressed at all, some haven't been fully, etc., etc. So going forward, and I've got all those things, and if we've got time, I'll raise them. I doubt whether we will, but I think exchanging the log of the actions is going to be sensible going forward. I do want to bring up one particular one which came up on the last call, and it was the security of tenure, Ron, which we chatted about anyway, and I thought it would be a good idea for you to explain that. So this is the point where what makes us safe going forward. So Ron sent me a mail. If you could perhaps just explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, so the club has a lease at Roots Hall. It's always been a short-term lease, and it's been actually outside the Act, which means that it could be terminated at short notice or at the expiry of the lease. So the proposal, and this has been agreed at our level anyway, that the club will be given a lease for an initial period of 25 years within the Act. Therefore, it has a right of renewal, automatic right of renewal. Roots Hall Limited has not charged rent at Roots Hall for 22 years. And if we did charge rent that was in the lease, that would be just 10 million. As we stand today, without any interest. And as matters stand, there's no intention of charging any rent in the new stadium either.
So on that very specific point, the intention is a bit woolly.
Yeah, it is woolly, but I could say that we should be charging the market rent, which in League One would be 400,000. In League Two, 200,000. In the Championship, probably $1 million. But there's no intention of doing that because we want the club to succeed.
Sure.
So we don't want to burden it.
So the point of the call, the point from the last meeting, that you're not going to be around forever, regardless whether you have any plans or not. We're all of a certain age, and you will eventually move on, and there will, whether that's short term or medium term.
You mean at the end of this call or next week?
And therefore. The new owner may not want to.
That's correct, Paul. The new owner might buy the stadium,
indeed,
and he may decide to charge the club a rent. But
exactly.
But the difference being is that as I've said previous, and I'm glad you're going to log this because I'm repeating what I've already said. All the income from the stadium will go to the benefit of the football club, so they should be able to afford a rent, shouldn't they?
Well, assuming the income from the stadium is high enough, clearly.
That's
again. I think that's personally. I think that's woolly as well. So I don't think the occasional pop concert or being able to use a concourse once a week or something is enough detail to give anyone comfort. Frankly,
what would you think is good comfort? Use the concourse every day of the week and all the facilities every day of the week.
Financial projections.
That is precisely what is open to the people who run the football club. They can operate all areas of the stadium to the football club's advantage. And Tom could very readily put together a forecast of what that income stream might look like, but it could well change depending on what league we're in. And he and I've talked about this.
I understand that. I don't have a feel whether your concourse renting out is £100 a month or it's 10 million a month.
But in the north,
But you need to, is the point. I think.
But well, there's 15 outlets around the concourse, and there's in the north stand, there's a facility to sit down 1,000 people for dinner. All those facilities are available to earn income from, and they go for the benefit of the football club.
Yeah, I guess the detail is the point I'm saying. I don't know whether.
But one thing you would
extra and no one else cares. But
everybody cares. One thing you would agree is that the opportunity to create more income from the new stadium is far greater than it is at the moment at Bruce
I think the other point is we'll be moving from a 30-day-a-year operation to a 365-day-a-year operation with the conferencing space and so on. So there'll be the opportunity to significantly increase non-match day income. It will be essentially running a banqueting facility most of the time, and then we'll have a football club on the Saturday, 23, 24 times a year.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. And just to reconfirm, we'll be debt-free as we move. You've said that several times, and
yep.
That's still the case. So all of
that is the intention. So there is two objectives: one, to build a stadium, and two, to create a financial foundation for the football club, which it would attract somebody else. And if it's got a deficit balance sheet of 17, 18 million, that's not a very attractive proposition.
Agreed.
So without the rent of 10 million and interest accrued, and any interest in capital that's been invested, the club probably owes me 24 million. I wrote off 6.8 million 3 years ago. So we could round that down to, say, 17 as we currently stand, maybe 18. And the intention is that when the football club, when we get a new stadium, I will clean up the balance sheet so there is no debt. Now, I know you guys, everyone listening will think, well, why would you do that? Well, I'll tell you why I do it, because I want to leave a legacy and for the love of the club. That's why I go up and down the country every other week watching this football club. The fact that you want to scream and shout at me, I don't actually get what you're trying to do. If I walk out of this club is bust tomorrow. People will be out of work, and no one's going to thank me for that. So
why would it be bust?
Sorry?
Why would it be bust?
Because there's a debt owed to me of 20 million and I'd like it back, please.
Sorry, so are we just saying in there? I think I don't think no one on this meeting is going to scream and shout at you. That is not going to get anybody anywhere. We've all agreed that we are going to be professional, mature and grown up people about this.
No, I was referring to the Solihull game and Tuesday.
Well, I'm sure others on this call will want to talk about both of those, and I'm not going to tread on their toes. I think we need to be clear here is that this is our football club. This is our football club. We're the people, you're the custodian of it. If you walk away and take £20 million and Southend United doesn't exist anymore, something will take its place. We've seen it happen in Aldershot, Chester, Darlington, Scarborough, Wimbledon. That'll happen. There'll be a Southend United in some form of significance.
I know that, and that's the beauty of football, isn't it?
And yeah, it is the beauty of football. But the point I'm saying is that that's not the kind of combative language that's helpful today. Is I'll walk away.
No, but you asked why it would go bust. It would go. Look, if I don't put my hand in my pocket, if I didn't put my hand in my pocket for 74,000 last month, we wouldn't have paid wages. Is that right, Tom?
Then actually what you need is more investment, which goes back to my earlier point.
And that's why building a stadium would create more investment, and therefore it won't be necessary for someone to keep putting their hand in the pocket perpetually. But of course, the other side of the coin is they don't have to invest, do they? They could just let whatever income the club generates pay the wage bill. And of course, then they may not be in a position to compete in the league. And of course, that's my beef, that we have invested and we still haven't been able to compete.
Paul, have you got anything else you want to, as your contribution, or where? Sorry, I did step in there.
No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, I've got a lot of individual points and things, but let's move round, and we'll come back if necessary. I mean, I've got lots of people sent me sort of, why'd you do this, why'd you do that, and a real depth of feeling you need to understand. I'm sure you do, Ron, but it's as bad as it's got. Let me just read you one thing, which I think sums up perhaps the thoughts of many people. In December 2019, you were quoted as saying, "We should stick with you and you'll fix it." And you haven't fixed it. So that comes to the back to the playing side. So why would people believe you now? And I don't mean that in a provocative way, but 2 years on, we're worse off than when you said that, aren't we? You have to.
Paul, I'm not God, am I? I mean,
absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely. But what I'm saying is, if you've got to see it from the supporters' side.
The club is still here. It has never got into administration. I've always protected it, and I've made the decisions I thought was appropriate at the time for its management. During that period, obviously, you're talking about Chris Powell, ended up Mark Mosley, and now Phil Brown. We always have to make a judgment call. Look, I've obviously got things wrong. I accept that. I make mistakes. I'm not infallible, but it's done with the best intention. If I ask people on this forum, would they have supported Chris Powell? Majority, I think, would have said yes. A legend of the club, really good guy, and we supported him with a lot of players, and he succeeded when he first came in, took over Phil Brown in January, but failed in the following year. So he gets changed. But I tend to leave the managers to manage. I don't interfere with their choice of. I don't pick the team. We do our due diligence on the players that they bring in, and then we generally sanction them. I don't know what else a chairman of any football club can do other than not invest. And the manager comes to him and says, "I want a player," and he says, "Sod off, I'm not going to support you." We don't do that. I don't do that. If you talk to Phil Brown, I don't think I've ever said no to him. There's the ongoing Ricky Holmes thing. That's still ongoing. But generally, we support him to a level financially that allows him to get the players that he wants. I mean, I can be criticised for the team not failing, but it's not me that's choosing the team. It's not me that's choosing the players, but I am choosing the manager. And that is the pivotal point that I obviously got wrong. And I apologise to everyone on this forum and anyone that's listening in the future for getting it wrong. But it wasn't done with the intention of the club failing. That is causing me a huge amount of grief. And obviously the fans a huge amount of grief. And all I want to do is I want to be happy. And the reason I went over to Solihull, we talk about that, is because they have shouted. I'm happy to talk to people. I've got nothing to hide. I want the same as everybody else. And if I didn't have to put my hand in my pocket to keep the club alive week in, week out, then I guess I'll probably feel a little happier. But if we're failing on the pitch, then I'm going to be miserable, same as you are.
I wasn't going to bring Scott in just yet, but I know Scott is going to be speaking for the Blue Voice who want to talk about Solihull. Scott, do you want to come in now?
Yeah, just on behalf, because Dan couldn't make it, so I said I'll step in and ask his question. Ron, I think it's got to be said, I don't know whether you are the most bravest football chairman I know, not that I know many, or the most stupidest, with all due respect, when it comes to leaving your area, nice cosy area in the home end at Solihull, and coming down to the away end, right, to talk, right? Fair enough, you want to talk. That's not a problem in itself. But that action of coming down there creates a flashpoint. It's going to create an issue, right? I can't, for the life of me, and neither can the wider footballing community. Everyone I've spoke to and been mentioned elsewhere, right across the internet, can believe quite what stunt was pulled there. So I'd like you to
stunt.
What you're thinking behind.
Look. I speak to fans wherever I am, whether it's in the high street like I did this morning, when I went to get a Starbucks, a couple of guys stopped me and wanted to chat. Actually perfectly nice. or whether it's seeing fans on the way into the stadium or seeing them on the way out. It wasn't a stunt. I just simply went down there to talk to people because obviously I'm unhappy, and if I could make them understand. Yeah, I don't read social media, Scott. I don't know. I didn't see that causing a flashpoint. I thought it might be welcome because I'm not hiding.
So what you're saying is you don't think Southend United are 2-0 down. Fans are shouting for you to be out, right? You decide to come down. You don't think you coming down there in that atmosphere is going to cause a flashpoint. Because if you don't think that's going to cause a flashpoint, that just says it all.
Well, let's put it another way. If I thought it was going to cause a flashpoint, I wouldn't have walked down there, would I?
Oh, well, how do we know that? You might.
You just asked me. I've just told you.
You might be looking to cause a flashpoint for all we know. How do we know that? Right?
Why would I do that?
Why would you do half the things you do, Ron? We don't know.
Like what?
I wish I knew. But at the end of the day, right, coming down there in that atmosphere, I even spoke to our police liaison who looked at me completely miffed about your actions, right? Is that the actions of a self-respecting chairman who runs and owns a professional football club? No, it is not. Can we agree on that?
Well, I think that a lot of fans from time to time would like their chairman to engage with them, and that's all I was doing.
And this
maybe that was it. Maybe it was an inappropriate forum because I couldn't really talk to them. I support the football club just as they do. It's no different. Look, Scott, you've been down in away games before, and I've actually stepped into the away area with you at Cheltenham. Do you remember that?
No.
No. Okay.
I remember you coming on the pitch. I remember you coming into the away end.
Okay.
But look, at the end of the day, Ron, you just got to see that it's, in hindsight, I hope you can at least accept that.
I now accept that it was probably an error, but it wasn't done to wind anybody up. Why would I do that? It was, if anything, I suppose one could say I was putting myself in danger.
I can't. I'm just like lots of other South United supporters, just completely taken aback by that. So, I can't say any more, but I can't speak for others, but I know a lot of people are just absolutely are shocked at that. And for a lot as well. And people comment about, why Tuesday went like it did with fans on the pitch and carrying on like that. I think your actions at Solihull helped accelerate that. It's just the sheer audacity of it. There's got to be a time and a place, Ron.
It wasn't audacity. It was just talking to people.
But it is an audacity when you come down from a director's area, an away game, and come in to the away end. That is audacity, right? That's saying, well, come on, I'll talk to you in the middle of a game when we're losing. You really expect to get a good, concise debate going there in the middle of an away end when we're losing? No.
Well, I don't suppose whether it's winning or losing we get probably a serious debate. People are unhappy. I was saying, look, I'm not against you. I'm on your side. That's all it was.
I think I think it's foolish. So do many others. But I've made my point. All I will say is roll on Saturday. Hopefully we'll get a win, but hopefully we'll make our voices heard as well.
Thank you, Scott. Jim, I want to bring you in next. You're next on my bit from the.
I guess that was meant for me, Scott. I won't be there Saturday. I've got a long-standing commitment, so I won't be there Saturday. I probably could be there for beginning of the game and see the players or something. But
that's all right. We just shout at Tom.
Yeah. Well. Okay.
I'm going to bring Jim in now from the Exiles. Jim, over to you, mate.
I started without any questions, but as this has gone on, I've got 3 now. Picking up on Paul's point, Tom, you clearly have some information that says the club can make money 365 days a year rather than 30 from Fossetts Farm. Some projections must have been done, even if they're just rough and very vague. Would it be helpful to publish those projections so that the fan base can actually see how Fossetts Farm will be a profitable stream for the club?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Jim. I haven't run forecasts on the income stream, but I know from my experience at Gillingham, for example, how much income can be generated from what would be, in comparison to what we will have, very, very modest conference and banqueting facility. It'd probably be wrong of me to disclose the inner workings of Gillingham Football Club, so I won't do that. But the income streams derived from the C&B operation enabled Gillingham to move to a break-even position in League One. So with the likely income streams we'll have from the new stadium, we should be able to more than compete at League One. But I do accept your point that if we could present some forecasting, that might be useful information. And I'll speak with Ron about the best way of perhaps putting that together.
Tom, it's not a problem. You can absolutely do that. You know, you don't need me to do that. You've got the plans, and you can make your own assessment of what that would be. But I mean, it's simple, isn't it? If you've got a building, and let's assume there's no rent being charged, and you can let that building and get an income, then you're ahead of the game, aren't you?
Yeah.
You start off at Roots Hall with a deficit of 400,000.
Yeah, and the facilities, we've only really got the captain's lounge and the Blues to generate corporate, hospitality income. So you're limited to about 100, 110, 120 maybe at a push. Whereas at the new stadium, as Ron says, there's a 1,000-seater facility in just one area.
Thanks.
Can I just before you go on, John, Jim, can I just reiterate the importance of that point that Jim's made? Is other questions I've got are largely around, well, not largely, there's quite a few questions I've got about why are we bothering with the new stadium? Okay, so I think the information that we're talking about here makes it much clearer why we're bothering, personally. And I think, would make a lot of people happier if they had that information. And, what's the point in going to a nice new stadium if we're going to be Conference South? Why do we need 22,000, etc., etc.? There's very good reasons for it, I'm sure, but people are not clear what they are.
I think just on the income streams, the ability to generate the sort of numbers that we will be able to generate will just move us from a completely different level. As Ron says, it is about £400,000 a year to get through the safety advisory certificate, so we'll lose that. We are limited in the amount of hospitality we can sell, and the projection, we can sit down and do it, but it's going to be many millions of pounds. I would guess between 3 and 5 million would be a reasonable estimate based on my knowledge of what we were doing at Gillingham with, significantly less space.
And it may be, to give people a bit of an insight, if a new owner comes in, which at some stage that's inevitably going to happen, and they have a debt-free stadium, they might want to raise capital on the back of that stadium from a bank institution to invest in the football club. That happens. It doesn't always have to be a debt-free stadium. Most stadiums around the country will have some sort of debt against it. Ours doesn't. But that's a thankless task too. But the new stadium will give that person the opportunity if that's what they want to do. It's not something I would do, because if you gear up against an asset, you've got to pay it back at some stage. But they could do that against the income that would be derived from the activity. And yeah,
I'll make a note to.
Why don't you do a forecast and distribute it? Because I think it'll open a few eyes. It seems to be, this whole forum is negative, but I think it's negative because of the way we are in the league we're in, which is I think tougher than we envisaged, and the position we're in. And I don't think we'll be having this debate if we were in the top three, but we are. You know, Tom's task and others is to get us out of it.
Well, I mean, I hate to reject that comment, Ron, but we've been having this discussion for many years, and whatever league we're in, that's not relevant.
I don't remember having it with you in the Championship, Paul.
And I go back to Jim.
Okay. This one's specifically for Ron. You've said quite rightly that you've backed the managers, the previous managers, in paying for players that they've been able to attract. Do you think the recent history of visits to court with HMRC and the non-paying of players has contributed to the quality of players that the managers have been able to attract?
No.
Okay.
You don't think the club's reputation hasn't been sort of like besmirched
No.
by various court cases and players not being paid, etc.?
No.
No?
No. You're asking me the question. The answer is no.
Yeah.
I think that players will go to the highest. You see, a player doesn't have to worry about that. If he gets a contract with a football club, he's then protected by the PFA. So if he signed a contract, he knows he's going to get paid, whether the club pay him or not.
Yeah, but his mortgage company aren't going to do that if he's late with his payments, is he?
They do get paid very quickly by the PFA, actually. Yeah, they do top them up, and that's what they're there to do, to protect them. So I would say, just from a player's perspective, I shouldn't think it impacts their thinking whatsoever. I've never heard someone say, I'm not going there because they don't get paid. HMRC has sent a wind up petition. So no, the answer is no to all those questions.
My third and final question, you talked about the short-term lease that the football club currently has on the ground. What is there? It's not a loaded question, but what will there be in place to stop you once you get planning permission for 800 houses at Fossetts Farm? You have planning permission for 500 houses at Roots Hall. What would be stopping you from building those houses without building the football ground?
There's a thing called a Section 106 agreement with the council, and we must start the stadium before we start the housing. And we must have a date for finishing the stadium inside finishing the housing. The trouble is, some people have got short memories when it suits. I'm not saying that you have, Jim, in particular, but in the Delancey days, it was me that put forward that restriction to allow the stadium to be built, so that we didn't have this nonsense of potential Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
So that security of tenure that Paul touched on at the beginning is maintained, and making sure that we go from the smooth transition from Roots Hall to the Fossetts Farm. And that's what will happen.
What if the football club didn't exist?
If we get planning consent, well, the football club always exists because the football club are the fans. So if there's a stadium, there's a football club, isn't there?
You finished, Jim?
Yeah, I've finished.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ken.
So just on that, Jim, I think it's a very valid and important question, but you needn't fear. We have looked after the interests, and so have the council. The council want the reason we're doing all this is so the football club to prosper, not the opposite, which you guys I think. I don't know why you think it. Why would I do that?
I didn't say I thought it. I was just asking for clarification, which
No,
you've given. So thank you.
It is contractually looked after and bound into an agreement with the council to make sure that the football club moves.
I have had that confirmed as well by the planning chief at Southend.
Good.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Going to move on to Ken.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm probably looking I look in the dark here, but I'm sure it's a computer and not me or the lights. Jim has just asked the very question, or one of the very questions that I've been asked. But another about that cover that we got, you know, if the ground is not built, but you're saying that it definitely will be built before houses go ahead.
It builds in parallel, but it'll start first.
It'll start first. Okay. In the last meeting, you were mentioning when you spoke about Section 106, you went on to say you would look at the lawyers, getting your lawyers to look at a covenant to protect future ownership.
Yeah, that's a security of tenure point, which I've written to Paul on. Are you there?
Okay. All right. I think as far as you're concerned, that's probably most of the questions. And my internet keeps breaking up anyway, so I'll let somebody else have a go.
We don't want you to be in the dark, Ken. The whole purpose of these forums is to
yeah, no, I mean literally not that way.
Okay, I'll go straight to Ede then.
Yep. Evening both. Thanks for your time this evening. First question. Earlier you did mention about our budget being second or even first in the league.
We don't know that until the end of the season. I'm just guessing.
All right. Well,
we do know that Southern went up for a budget of 520,000.
Fair enough. But Phil Brown earlier came out and reckons it's mid-table. So which one is it?
What are you asking me?
Well, is it top two or is it mid-table?
No, he's not talking about wages. He'll be talking about probably where he thinks we might finish. I suspect he wouldn't. Look, this is a matter of fact. I'm telling you that 1.4 million, we are right at the top of National League. I mean, there'll be League Two clubs that won't have a wage bill of 1.4 million. Tom, why don't you opine on that? You know as much as I do on these things.
We started off with a loose budget on what we thought was the right figure for what we could have, what would fit within the business plan. That was around £1 million, and we've done what we can to maximise income streams, reduce costs, so it creeps closer to 1.1. And then with group company support, we've been able to increase that further. So Phil may have been talking about the starting point, which was probably mid-table, but we've now moved way past that point, and we are creeping up the league, as Ron has said. Where exactly we are, we don't know.
But let's not be shy to mention that managers, do tend to play down their budgets. Not saying Phil does particularly. I think Phil's pretty good. But play down their budgets to say, this is the reason I'm failing, because I haven't got the support. That's what they do. So, from the chairman's point of view of the fans, you get to a rock and a hard place. The manager's saying, oh, I haven't got the support, when actually we all know he has. And then the fans say, oh, you're not supporting the manager, when we know that we've done that. And you'll find out later, a year later, when things are published, or the league tables of wage bills are published by the EFL. Not sure the National League do that, but probably they'll follow suit. So we all know who was paying what a year later. But of course, the debates happened a year before that, so it all gets forgotten again. That manager may have got the sack because of he didn't succeed with this fantastic budget that he had. And we all move on and have a debate another year. But that's why it's great that you're having this forum, Paul, and you're going to record it, because all that I always say is correct and true. I may have made mistakes, and I apologise to everyone for that. But as I say, it's done with the club to try and be successful, not to run it into the ground.
I'm not sure why you said Paul there. This is a supporters group call, not a trust call, just for clarity.
Oh, well, impunicy. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Well, no, it's not that at all. It's the, one voice, as Kerry said, that's the point. So it's not about the trust or any individual here. It's about the general feeling of supporters.
I think it's important that when we had the first one of these, one of the things that resonated with me was that you found it difficult dealing with a fragmented supporter base, and we all come from a slightly different bit. We are speaking as one today, so anything that's said to any supporters group is said to anybody else. So I just want to make that point that this is a unified front.
Yeah, and I think that the point I was making then is that you can't run things by committee, because you'll never get a consensus of opinion. So it's easy to have maybe 1 or 2, 3 people. And the Shrimpers Trust has been consistent for 20 years in being a consistent voice. Other groups have come and gone, but now you're all one. Why don't you just call yourself one group rather than Blue Voice, Shrimpers Trust?
Because we do different things, Ron.
The Custard Splat podcast, whatever that is.
It's different people with different views. But what's happened is people have come together with the same view. That there are different. The Blue Voice is about match day experience. It's not about bringing social inclusion into the club or charitable donations or anything like that. We have different purposes.
Well, okay. How about this then? Match day experience by shouting at me and parading up and down does not.
No, you're just throwing out. This is rubbish. No, you're just throwing out accusations now. What's that all about? We're talking about why we're here. Why do you have to throw that?
The Blue Voice rep isn't here. It's Dan. He's a very quiet and considered.
Yeah, he's a very reasonable human being. That's all I'm going to say.
The Blue Voice over a number of years have been responsible for the drum, and you use Dan on your pre-season video. For bringing youngsters into the club that aren't normally there, supporting the club through thick and thin, home and away. And as I said at the beginning, and I was very pointed, what happened Tuesday wasn't arranged by any organisation that we're aware of.
And specifically not the Blue Voice.
That took us all by surprise. So I think, he's not here to defend the Blue Voice.
How did that happen then, Kerry?
I have absolutely no idea. I was as surprised as probably you were when it happened.
Being in the bottom half of the National League normally does it, but
we had no idea that was happening. There was nothing on social media to suggest that was happening. That was completely out of the blue. That isn't anything to do with anyone in this. And I'm not condoning going on the pitch, but it was going to happen, I think, at some point. But I think it's unfair that the Blue Voice were told there. I think they do a really good job.
Oh no, I wasn't. Sorry, I wasn't blaming the Blue Voice. I said, but it's the match day experience. I was saying that if there's chanting going on of a negative nature, I don't see how that can help the players. I think part of our problem right now, I think we've got a good group of players, they're good people, and I think they're good footballers in the main. Is that they are not playing with freedom because they feel under pressure. They either feel under pressure because they've been losing, and I think creating a negative atmosphere around the stadium is not helping them. That's all.
They scored on the pitch, Ron.
Sorry?
So we scored when it was on the pitch.
Yeah, well, maybe as I'm not going to be there, maybe it'll be more helpful for them. But we've got some good people, and I don't want to see them suffer and fail as a consequence of additional pressure. And I think they are feeling it.
Back to you, mate.
Yeah, I guess the first question kind of leads on to this one, and it's something I did mention to you, Tom, before. I don't think you was on the call, Ron. So we've got a 1.4 playing budget for 3,000 season ticket holders, the parachute payments, blah, blah, blah. Currently, was it 18th? Appreciate we're only 10 games in. I'm already writing off promotion. I'm sure a lot of other fans are. What happens next season with investment?
Yes, well, it's curtailed after 6 months, and that'll have to be accounted for in the budget, won't it?
That's correct.
So does that come from one of your businesses, or?
Well, that's been the case for the last 20 years, and I suspect it will continue in. Yeah, we haven't got a legacy of expensive players that came in following relegation from League Two. We kind of cleared the decks, most of those. So the fact that we've got a budget of now it's not budget, we're paying 1.4 wage bill. As I said, we know that promotion has been achieved from National League into League Two on a wage bill of just over a third of that, so 40%. So it's achievable. We don't have to. It doesn't have to be investment. We have to get the right players. And I'm sure Phil Brown and others feel that they did get the right players. And me too. Talking to them, watching them, I think they've got the ability, but they're certainly hamstrung by the pressure they're under. And all I'd like to see is a little bit more freedom and allow them to play, perhaps like they started to in the second half on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's me done. Thanks for that.
Okay, go back to Richard.
Obviously, I've got a few bits. Obviously, I'm going to cut it short. There's quite a few bits. Obviously, going along. Obviously, the last meeting you said you'd be breaking ground for the new training ground in January. Obviously, that's been delayed till.
It will be Q1. We'll be doing that.
Just said Q2 earlier.
The council have to go through their process of planning. We were anticipating planning on 23rd of June. We thought it might go to a special committee meeting. It didn't, and here we are. 4 months later, and it hasn't gone to a committee date. But the longer it takes the council to get to committee, then the longer it's going to take us to start on site, because we need planning consent and we need to fulfil the conditions of that planning consent before we can start. And it will take, it's 88 conditions on the Fossetts site. There'll be conditions from Rochford, and that's where the training ground is. But we can start some work in January, because we already have an extant consent. That's an existing consent to build the pitches. But we do want to do it at the same time, because we only have, I think it's 454 spaces under the existing consent. And we've got something like 900 spaces in the car park under the new consent. So that work needs to be done at the same time, and we couldn't do that unless we fulfill the conditions. So there's some work for us to do, but we will be on site and we will get the work done to allow vacant possession of existing training ground by the summer of next year.
So something will happen in January.
Something will happen in Q1. I'm a little bit too old in the tooth for you. I reckon I loaded questions, because a couple of 31st of January, you point the finger and say, you didn't start it. Look, it will be finished in the summer to allow the construction to start on the stadium and the housing at the end of Q2, beginning of Q3 next year. Okay. It's not precise science construction, but planning is even worse. So, as I said, hardly God, and probably you guys think I'm the devil. Well, that's not true. The fact is that we're waiting for the council to make a decision. If that's a positive decision, then we'll have a clear line of sight to get on with our work. Okay. So it's not what I'm saying, Richard. It's not within my gift at the moment.
Okay, no, it's just obviously because it was quite a bit of a fanfare last time. Something was finally going to be happening in terms of breaking ground in January, and obviously in the space of a month, obviously it's gone back to Q2. But hey ho.
Q1. The training ground will start in Q1.
Okay, well, it's fine. It's all right. We'll quibble over a couple of months. It's no big deal. Obviously, the other thing as well is obviously you say about as we all know, with none of us are immortal. Now, obviously, at some point you will be passing the baton on. Now, obviously, be that sold on. Is that not going to be passed on to your son, or your legacy being passed on to your son or your family, or
definitely not? Definitely, 100% not.
Okay, that's fine. The other biggie, obviously, as you're well aware, obviously, there are a lot of us who are, should we say, not in the Ron Martin fan club. But obviously, is there any way you would sell the club?
At the moment, no.
So sort of somebody who we would feel had the, should we say, the club at heart, rather than obviously that, because for me,
Richard, do you think I've not got the club at heart?
No.
Are you really saying that?
I am.
You're saying I haven't got the club
Because
at heart?
I think you are only in it for the money. I think you're only in it for the money you will make out of building those houses.
How do I? All right.
I think, no, let me finish. I think a lot of people feel exactly the same way, hence the reason why we've been like this. Now, you stand to make millions from this. Now, obviously, you have invested heavily, or your companies have invested heavily within at the club. Now, at the end of it, you, your family, your business, whoever, stand to make millions from that ground being built. And that is the top and bottom. That is what it's about. When you took the club over, you were asked if you were a football fan, and you said no, you are not a football fan. Why would a property developer buy a football club that has a lot of real estate?
I think if you recall correctly, I said I supported Liverpool.
But maybe Chris, if Chris was the one doing the interview or was there, well, they'll clarify that. But
I played football through all my school days. Then I've always been interested in sport, and you'll know that I changed at the age of 17 to track and field athletics, and the rest of it's history. But that is not right. I'm not a football fan. I supported Liverpool because my father did. I didn't support Southend, but now I do. And I don't think you can possibly say for 23 years, I've given every weekend to watching the football club up and down the country, spending fortunes on it to something to do with property. That's just crazy, because there've been fallow years when we haven't even promoted the stadium. You know, there's been years gone by and nothing has happened. So it's only when there's an opportunity perhaps in the sector that we might be able to promote it, or we need to buy the requisite land, because that's all part and parcel. If you think about it, this was going to be driven by retail development. Then the retail market fell apart. Sainsbury's were interested in Roots Hall. That didn't happen. So there's been opportunities for the club to move and improve itself. And this is just another opportunity, and I hope it comes off. But please don't say that I'm in it for property, because there's nothing be further from the truth. It's
you're only doing
22 million. How am I going to get that back, Richard, when we're spending 35, 40 million on the first phase of the stadium? You tell me how that's going to make 65 million before I make a penny.
Well, I don't know the value.
No, you don't know, and that is the problem. You don't know. So make accusations.
I know a lot more than you probably realise.
Well, tell me how I'm going to do it. Send me
the figures are already out there.
Why don't you send me an appraisal of how I'm going to make a profit? I'd love to see it. You want us to send you an appraisal of how the club's going to be?
Well, you already said at previous meeting that you're not going to make as much money as people think. We know that, but you are still going to be making a sizable amount of money.
You mean?
And I think
wait a minute. Let's get that clear. What you're saying is that I'm not going to get my money back, but I'll get some back. Is that what you're saying?
You will. You've already said that you will be making money on this. Your previous meeting, you said I'm not going to be making as much money on this as people think. So by that.
No, I think I said I won't get my money back.
No, I never said that.
No, I tell you, that's what I've said. That is what I've said.
Yeah, but you said you will be making money on it because you will not be making as much money back. And we can dig up the previous meeting and we can do that word for word. But they were your words. You will not be making as much money as people think I'm going to make. Yeah. So by that, you are making money out of this.
Well, I'm not getting my money back. I can't get it back, and I couldn't possibly recover the cost of the stadium. It's impossible. I mean, you know, Brentford, because it'll be in public domain. I think Brentford spent 65 million on their stadium. What do you think it's worth? 10, 15?
The real estate that the previous ground was on was quite a bit.
So what you're saying, sorry to cut across, what you're saying, Ron, is then it's damage limitation for you then?
Look, my objective is to build a stadium so the club can progress.
Yeah, I get that. But
I mean, just as well, I've got some skill in property and finance to help it on its way.
But let's be honest, Ron. You turn up, you buy a football club within the view to flipping it. We get a new ground. You make a tidy profit. Everyone's a winner, right? That's how business works. No one's under the illusion that's a bad thing.
27 years later.
Yeah, and by the things
if that was my objective, then I must be a pretty shoddy businessman. I think I'm going to turn and I write off 10 million in rent. Why would I do that?
Nobody's denying that.
And why would I go to every match? I mean, Paul's the chairman of the Shrimpers Trust. He doesn't go to every match.
I don't know why we're bringing Paul into it, but anyway.
Well, anybody. Do you all go to every single match?
If you let me finish, nobody is saying that things haven't gone your way at certain points or the club's way. We know there was a financial crash. We know that if your plans had come to fruition, right back from 1998, that we could have been in our ground 10, 20 years ago, right? We're not saying that that's necessarily all your fault. All we're saying is, okay, you now have to accept that you're, for what we call in terms in the poker circles, you're now pot committed, right? You are now damage limitation. You have to see it through because you're all in and you're invested. There's no harm in just admitting that, is there?
No, I suppose the alternative is that I could just walk away and sell Fossetts Farm and leave you at Roots Hall.
Go for it, and then we'll rise up as fans and we'll do what we need to do. But if you want to be like that, we can be like that. It's not a problem.
No, because I look, we're on a roll. Hopefully, the council will be supportive, and we can look back on this conversation in 3 years' time and think, "Wow, look what we've got," and that'd be fantastic.
And just at the end of that, Ron, if let's say it's all goes ahead and we're in the new stadium in 2-3 years' time, or however the time frame is, and that all goes ahead.
Yeah.
What are your plans? Can you turn around to us now and say, look, once it's in the ground and everything's sorted out, I'll put it out for sale, make sure it goes into the right hands, and we both part ways and everyone's happy. Is that something you look at?
Scott, I haven't thought past that getting to practical completion of the stadium, but at least when that comes, the opportunity would be there for someone to properly invest in a club that's got fantastic potential.
Okay.
I think we can agree that much, can't we? That we've got great potential, but we don't fulfill it.
I can agree as the current owner. If I would like to think that any current owner who was looking to sell something would make sure it goes into the right hands and do their due diligence.
I think it's really important, and I've never had someone knock on my door and say, "I'd like to buy the football club. I've got this amount of money to invest," and there'll be a proper person who supports Southampton United. We don't want somebody external to the club, do we? We want somebody who's actually really cares.
Shane, apologies for bringing you in at the end.
That's fine. Mine's all the questions I want have all been asked anyway. But just a hypothetical one, Ron. If I won the 172 euro millions on Friday, and I come to you and said, "Here's 25 million," would you walk away and give me the club?
Nope, absolutely not. And you can make it 40 million, I still won't do it because I'm going to deliver this new stadium for you.
If you're going to deliver,
if you do, you can buy me a beer instead.
If you've just said that you are not going to make any money out of all this building, which I don't really understand. I'm not a businessman. I'm a plumber. That's what I do for a living. I understand my game. I don't understand your game. I cannot see how you can be here this long and are not actually just here for the end game. Well, you've got to be making money. You cannot.
Because I love the fucking club, you idiot. That's why.
Thank you for that.
Hang on. I'm going to step in here.
And that is what we're dealing with.
There's your problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to step in here. I'm chairing this. We said at the beginning that we would all behave ourselves and treat each other with respect. And, there's been some forensic questions, and we've all done that.
I might be a plumber,
but Kerry,
no need for that. Absolutely none.
Kerry, it doesn't I say black's white, red's green, blue's yellow. You just don't want to believe it. That is the problem.
If we
don't trust
it. If we come on here using that kind of language, we would rightly get pilloried by the people that are watching it, supporters and yourself. Absolutely pilloried. James asked a really sensitive.
You asked me a question. I answer it as best I can and honestly, and I love the club. Yeah. That's it. It's a fact.
Right,
people do things for stupid reasons, and maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I shouldn't put the money in. Maybe it's a big mistake, but I did it.
on this kind of forum, idiots. That's not how we do business.
Oh, I apologise for that.
So-
Shane. I shouldn't have lost it. I did. But you asked me why I'm doing it, because I love the club. I'm not doing it for financial reasons. I couldn't do it. It's just so far from the truth.
Apology accepted. I understand that. But this is the problem. The majority of the supporters believe you're only in it for the financial reasons. It's as simple as that. There's no, we don't understand, or I say we, me personally, did not understand why you're still here. And then you just turn around and just said you're not going to make any money out of it.
I didn't say I'm not going to make any money. I said I won't get my money back. That is an impossible task. But I do love the club and I'd love to see it succeed. You asked about my family. My family would love it to succeed as well. And, you know, I might not be here next year. Who knows? And that would be a great shame. But at least if we get planning consent and we've started construction, that means we've entered into contracts and it'll be seen through. And you'll be on the journey, whether I'm with you or not.
Fair enough.
And in years to come, in 10 years to come, when it's all died down and you know, I'm somewhere else probably, and you've got a successful club and you've made sustain a position in the championship, then I would have got my pleasure from that.
So you'll give it away instead of selling it, because after it ain't about the money.
Well, I've already given it away, haven't I? I've not charged rent for 23 years. Who does that?
Well, you have accrued it though, Ron, and that's the 20 million that you're talking about. You're not getting back.
And it is, and anything you write off is
no, it's not.
deductible as
It's
well.
the capital investment. It's beyond that, Paul.
I don't doubt, but you know, the part of it.
No, that makes it 30 million. Ask Patrick. He'd probably tell you it's 36 right now.
That's fine, but you know, it's.
Well, you asked the question. I'm answering it. It's not. It's the capital contribution, and also the rent is a different issue.
That is accrued and owed to you.
So do you not get any sort of tax relief on anything that's written off? Obviously, if you've written off millions, that's quite a substantial amount of money.
I mean, you don't get. I mean, tax relief means that you're making a loss, doesn't it?
If you write, you also get money back if you write anything off. You're also able to recover any tax on that.
So you think there's benefit in making a great investment, losing money, and writing it off?
No, I'm just saying it's not all going sort of like one way.
It's got to be in the same financial year as the profits.
Well, why don't we write it off now? Why didn't you just write it off now? I saw that's maybe a really basic question, but why should we have it sitting on the books? Why not just write the whole thing off?
It'll happen when we move.
Sorry, I don't understand that. Scott's made a good point. Enlighten us. Why wouldn't you write it off now if it's going to get written off and remove the doubt and the debt?
Yeah, well, last time we wrote it off, there was a reason behind why we did it, and we'll be looking at that over the next year or so. It's got to be in the best efficient way for the football club, and just, you know, let us do what we're doing.
Okay. Does anybody else want to add any more comments to the discussion?
I will add one more, and it's just a personal one. This is just purely sort of like Saturday. I know it's already been covered, but I'm shocked and embarrassed the amount of people that I have fielded questions, including relatives from the other side of the world who've seen it. If that hot dog had hit you, that guy would have been arrested. And obviously, surely that then comes under incitement, but I'm sure Tom will obviously, because I didn't see or hear anything being said whilst you were there. You just stood there behind the security and the police.
No, I didn't actually. I was going to talk to you. Look, I accept, Richard, that maybe we all telling me it was a mistake. I didn't do it for any reason other than talk to people who are upset, unhappy, and probably had never met me before, and I'm happy to talk to them. And you know, they were spread out. There wasn't large groups, and I didn't notice the hot dog. And as soon as I got there,
you did, because you turned around and went back and got stopped.
I didn't see the hot dog. I'm telling you, I didn't see the hot dog. Why
did you turn around and look at the guy that threw it at you? I was 2 feet from you.
Well, I didn't see the hot dog, and maybe something was said. I'm not sure this is really important part of the agenda.
Well, I was going to say the other thing as well.
But when I went there, Keith Baker came alongside me. He said, "I know you want to talk to them, Ron, but I don't think they're going to be listening." And therefore, on that encouragement, I turned around. And if I had seen the hot dog, maybe I would have caught it and eaten it.
No, I don't think the food was that good.
Okay, I don't see anybody else hands up waiting to come in. I think the point to sum up is I think you understand, Ron, that everyone's.
Jim's got his hand up.
Sorry, who's got his hand up?
I have.
Thank you, Jim.
I leave here slightly confused, Ron. You bought the club 23 years ago, and
I bought 50% of the club 23 years ago, and I bought it out Delancey's interest in 2006.
And at what point was it that you'd fallen in love with Southend United that made you decide you were quite happy to put millions of pounds into it with no possible chance of ever getting that back?
Well, it's been accrued over a long time. So whether it's sort of 500,000 or a million or 2 million in the course of a year, but it's been over a long time. In the early stages, I didn't go to the matches. We had John Main, who was chairman. Then I started to go to home matches, probably after about 18 months. And I think it just grew on me, and that's what happens, isn't it? You do fall in love with things, and then I've been going to every home and away match ever since, and I do like it. No, I didn't enjoy the atmosphere at Solihull, of course not. But the fact that that has upset me, and probably is the deterrent to go to matches. The fact is, I do enjoy the football, and I do want to see the club succeed. And where it is right now is making me as miserable as probably most supporters. It's frustrating. It's frustrating because I think the group of players we've got are capable of more. So it's disappointing where we are.
Richard, you got your hand up?
Yeah, just one last one, and this is serious, and it's not meant to be provocative. Obviously, I think speaking for a lot of fans, I think their big worry is Southend doing a Darlington, for want of a better description, a 22,000 seat stadium. I know one of my friends here was there for a game. I think it was about 1,400 people in. Obviously, they've plummeted. With all due respect, if your dream comes off, but the playing side does not match, is there any benefit of us being in a stadium? And you mentioned banqueting suites and whatever. There are one or two dotted around the town, but obviously the point being is that no, a 22,000 seat stadium, be it 3-sided, 4-sided, whatever, is that going to be a benefit for a club that is doing a York or a Stockport, and Stockport are on the up again? So these all take time, and this is the serious worry that people are having. No, we have plummeted with 18 wins in 100 odd games. It's not encouraging, and putting everything apart behind what we've just gone through. The serious thing is that no, we want the club to succeed, but obviously, it's worrying, and realistically, I'm hoping that if it all goes how you want it, I'm probably not going to see it either, because I'll probably want to be living somewhere a bit warmer. But the problem being is obviously, if it doesn't go right, we could be doing Darlington in a 22,000 seat stadium with 2,000-3,000 fans.
I think Darlington's a very different picture. You've got Sunderland and Newcastle on their doorstep as competition, and Southend. It was said at the beginning that the club is its fans, and we've got a big fan base. We've also got a geography with a very dense population, and a lot of people were supporting Southend when we were doing well in League One. We know that 10,000 fans, 10,100 fans was the average in the Championship, and we were the bottom. If we can build a stadium, and those people will obviously still be around, and they continue to support it, then there's every opportunity that we can get back up the leagues. Look, it's really, really crucifying to be where we are. I know that, but maybe I'm being thick. I don't really understand why everyone lays the blame at my door when all I try to do is help.
Unfortunately, the buck stops with you, as you can accept.
I know.
Being a businessman, and rightly or wrongly, and I'm not having a dig here, rightly or wrongly. No, you're the name that everybody associates with the club. It's your club. It's your business, and it's your business.
Richard, don't differentiate. It's our club. We all want the same for it. We're all miserable and sad that we are where we are. And all I'm trying to do, look, if there was another 10 of me putting their hand in their pocket in the way that I have, we probably wouldn't be failing, would we? We'd be able to buy all the good players. There's only so much I can do. And right now I accept it's not good enough, but we are investing better than most clubs in this league, and actually better than most clubs in League Two. I hope it pays dividends. But
then could I just, cut across you, Richard, but why is it though, right? I get you talking about the investment. I understand that, right? Let's be pragmatic about it. But why are we, in the wider footballing community, in this country, why is our club a laughing stock? Why is that? Why is it relegation after relegation back to back? You said you've done this, you've done that. But what do you think is the key reason behind that? Is it not enough money? Is it making the wrong decisions? Why does it keep feeling? Why does it feel sometimes that South United Football Club can't run a bath, let alone a football club?
I don't know the answer, because if I knew the answer, we would it right, wouldn't we? I think that it's easy with hindsight to make the right decisions. I thought having Chris Powell in was the right decision at that time for the management. He had incredibly bad luck, and in terms of injuries. But then you might say, well, maybe he signed the wrong players. I didn't think so at the time. I think bringing Phil Brown back was a good thing. They do say managers shouldn't come back, but I think that he remains committed and he's a footballing man through and through. And I hope that he can turn our fortunes around. I think I made a mistake with Mark Mosley. I tried to help a young manager. I wanted to see a young manager succeed. I actually wish him well, even though he's at Aldershot. But maybe that was an error. One of the responsibilities of Tom is to look at the club from top to bottom. He's been carrying out an audit of every department and bring together a business plan. He will get it right. He'll get my financial support to get it right. He will get the personnel around him right.
I've spoken to Tom regarding the report he's done, and it looks like there's been some sterling work, and he's put a lot of effort into them. So I thank Tom on that front. Would it be possible if a fan-friendly, obviously that can be abbreviated version, could be published to see what the findings are and what the plan is to do on them fronts?
Look, there's no secrets for me. I willingly, come back to the point. We only want what's right for Southend United Football Club. If Tom wants to do an abridged version for you, then he can do it. He's got my support for that. What do you think, Tom? Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, there was. I did draft a document the first 100 days, but I put that down on the 28th of August, and I haven't picked it up again because we've had quite a lot of things going on. So I could certainly bolster that to include a bit more detail on exactly what's been going on and what I've found. And I could perhaps incorporate the forecast on the new stadium to show where we are now and where we will be and the journey we're going to go on to get from A to B. So yeah, I can put that together for sure. I'll probably need 4 to 6 weeks though to get it done.
I think that's important because one of the fundamental things we've had all the way through all these meetings and beyond is that the fans want clarity, the fans want information, and the more that comes from yourself and Ron, the better supporters will feel about it.
Thanks.
I agree with that, Ken. But don't forget that it was the same management, me and Jeffrey King and others, that started this fan forum with the Shrimpers Trust 20 years ago. And then during lockdown, I thought this is a really good forum to have a debate and get all the supporter groups on one screen and sharing it. No, I know that I'm not flavour of the month, but I didn't have to come on the call, did I? But I willingly did because I think it's the right thing to do because we all want the same. And I think that this is just another tool to understand the fans' feeling, what they can do, and how they can contribute to the success of the club. So, if by sharing more information and Tom can do that, then he has my support for it. I mean, there are other members of the board that could be on these forums if you want to talk to them, and I think they'll be singing from the same song sheet as you guys.
Thank you. I'm aware that our 90 minutes is up. I'm also aware that there are some people on the call that need to look after to small children and have dinners. So, Tom, with your agreement, we've not managed to get onto the more mundane questions that we normally talk about. Would you be amenable for a quick 30-minute chat with this forum next week where we can pick up those questions that we've been asked around the non-ownership issues that we've been talking about today?
Yeah, absolutely. That's fine.
Okay, we'll either myself or Paula just drop you a line to agree at a reasonable time. Ron, I'd like to thank you for coming today. I recognise you've probably not had the greatest 90 minutes in front of us that you've had. I think we appreciate the fact that we've aired grievances, and I hope we listen to. Nobody wants to see the football club where it is. Nobody wants to see the football club go any further than where it is. I described it on a video that I hope you've seen about watching your cat being put down every Saturday. And that's what it feels like. There's no joy here.
I haven't seen your video, but
I will send you a copy of it.
Yeah, I do think these are helpful forums, regardless of the last 90 minutes. Forgive me, Shane, I shouldn't have said that. But you asked me a question, I told you I love it, but you don't believe me. So I mean, why else would I do it?
I think we need to move away from the we don't believe you. You've come, you've spoken. We've made the point clear. We've got a mandate to that we don't have a confidence in you. We have demonstrations going on that we're not in control of, which are there. We hope that the next time we meet, things are better. We really hope things are better. Give us 3 wins on the trot, something like that. But at the moment, there's absolutely no joy in watching this football club week in, week out. It is soul destroying. And I don't think anybody that pays their money to attend Roots Hall and the away games will tell me that I'm wrong. And I think that's the message that I would like you to take away, is that it's not fun.
No, I know it's not fun.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
But I thank you. I thank you for coming. And apart from the little incident, I thank you for your honesty in this. And I sincerely hope that the comments that we've all made will be taken on board and will be food for thought in the decision making that the club make in the next days, weeks and months to turn the good ship Southend United around. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, Kerry, thank you then.
Cheers.
Bye.
Do the supporters teams just want to stay on for 20 minutes, a quick 5 minutes?
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Tom.
Cheers, Tom. Thanks a lot, mate.
Do you want to stop recording?